there. Yeah, I thought I'd talk a bit about the equipment now, software and all of that type of stuff. With cameras, I've tried lots of different ones. And you know, every camera has its advantages and disadvantages, but my two favoured ones, I guess my favourite one, and I'm holding it up now, is the Garmin Verb 360 camera. It's really rugged. It is waterproof. I've actually strapped it on a canoe and watched somebody barrel roll in it. It's pretty spiffy in a headset to watch that. It has all these onboard GPS sensors as well. It's great stabilization. We've got a project happening up in Mackay where they're going to try wearing it on referees' heads. And it was the only camera that they could run around the field with and you weren't getting motion sick because it stabilizes so well. It's pretty good in low light. It's got some bad points. It needs great quality cards, but the reality is, I think, and we're talking about SD cards, if you put little ones in or cheap ones, I find it just doesn't work. It goes through batteries. If you're stitching up really close, you can get a bit of a stitch line. And if you look at those sonography videos, you'll see that. But it's really easy in some cases. You actually make sure you understand the camera and you have your stitch lines, like the stitch lines in those sonography videos are in the middle of curtains. Nobody really even notices them. I do because I know they're there. But as a good all-round camera, the Insta1 360X has got to be one of the best cameras on the market at the moment. And that's the one I'm holding up now, if I hold it up to the camera. It's incredibly quality video and images, 24 megapixel still images. It's so easy to use, it's good price. I think they're about $400 or $500 now. The Garmin's around about a $900 camera. It's not quite as good as stabilization and it's not so good in low light, but apart from that, brilliant camera. And you know, basically you need the cameras and the software that comes with them is enough. You can do more with other software, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Headsets, we for a long time were using Google Cardboard or variances of Google Cardboard like Michael was holding up before. There's some really spiffy Google Cardboard variances now, and they still have their place because of the augmented reality concept, you know, the actual use them like that. But the one we love is the Oculus Go headset. It's brilliant. Basically, it's quite game-changing. It allows you to do this 360 video virtual reality stuff in such high quality. It's so immersive. And they've just brought out the Oculus Quest headset, which is the next level up, which basically allows you to use 6 degrees of freedom. It gives you 2 hand controllers where you can interact with the environment. And Michael, I accidentally bought one last night that's getting shipped at the moment. A Quest. So
okay. I was going, accidentally bought what? A Quest.
Yeah.
Your finger slipped and you spent $650. Okay.
Yeah. Michael and I have been joking about that. I've actually spent, I think it was 55 days in hospital going mad. And I did a bit of shopping and I bought a little 3D printer last week as well. And Michael, I'm digressing, but what about the cool Oculus Go stand, hey? We'll show you that later.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's very cool.
But the Oculus Go is around about a $300 headset now. We've got at the university, we have 2 class sets of 6 where you can actually load material onto them. You can side load your own videos, your own interactions and all of that. There are some really great anatomy and physiology bought apps for it too, where you can actually use for students who learn that way. You know, it's quite a good unit. And I think this space is just going to get better and better as the tech gets on. Oculus Go was certainly probably, what do you reckon, Michael, one of the game changers to come out in the last few years, yeah. On the software front, Verb Edit is the software that comes with the Verb. It's free, downloadable, and the Verb Edit is actually a very good bit of software for editing 360. Doesn't matter which camera it comes from. It is a free bit of software you can download from the Garmin site. Insta360 Studio is a software that actually comes with the Insta360, and it does some amazing things. You can do hypercam, you can do bullet time effects, you can do all these really spiffy effects with it. Apart from specific software that I tend to use, I spent so much time trying to figure out the best way to edit the 360 videos. And you know, it turned out that Adobe Premiere was the best. And most universities tend to have access to Adobe products. Any Adobe product, there's a bit of a learning curve, but I found with Adobe Premiere, I'd never used it before. I think it was January of this year. And now I can do just about what I want in it, from sitting in front of the computer and watching the odd YouTube tutorial when I needed to do something specific. I use, for the still stuff, Pano2vr. Lectora Inspire is a program I use to package it all sometimes. If you are into Adobe Captivate, they've just brought out 360 support in that. The one that I really love is 3D Vista Virtual Tour. It's a fairly expensive bit of software. It's about an $800 bit of software. H5P has amazed me with what you can do with interactions in H5P. You can't do video at the moment, but what you can do with still 360 imagery is amazing, and I'll show you that in a moment. And CoSpace's EDU, which is an incredible bit of software or online service if you want to do merge tube stuff.
Can I interrupt you for a second,
Yeah.
Darryl? Somebody asked about stitching software. Do you do stitching with external software, or do you tend to just use like the Verb built-in software or the Insta?
Absolutely. One of the beauties with both the Verb and the Insta360 is in things like Premiere, the footage goes in straight into Premiere and it does it all there. The Garmin actually stitches it on board. For years I used the Samsung, which is a really good little camera for its day, and same with one, I can't even think of what the golf ball ones were, but you had to spend a whole amount of time stitching. With these two cameras, you don't. I can take the raw footage straight off the cameras straight into either Verb Edit or Insta360 Studio and work with it straight away, but I tend to take it straight into Adobe Premiere. I think the next screens are me showing how to use the software, and I've got it set up live, so we will, yeah. So I'm just going to end that one there. I'm going to try and share. Okay. Just remembering where I'm sharing. This bit of software here is called Pano2vr, and hopefully that's shared with everyone. It was designed to create real estate tours. Basically how it works is you load your 360 images down here, and then you actually link them by hotspots. Now it's just beautiful, like this is outside the room. If I want to put a hotspot to the room entry, I drag it up there, and that's new hotspot. That'll take me to that room. I don't want it, I delete it. Hotspots can do anything. If we go into the room, I've got hotspots just doing pop-ups. But then I've also got a pop-up here, which is popping up a video. There's a bit of a learning curve, but the reality is it's actually pretty good to learn. When you actually finish with it, finish what you're doing with it, you simply say, I want to output it. You know, how do I want to output it? You can output it as SCORM, you can output it as all sorts of things, and away you go. It's ready to rock. Great bit of software to use. So I'll stop sharing that one. So you're going to get sick of me sharing and stopping sharing, but I thought it was worth showing some of the software.
How much is Pano2vr these days, Darryl?
It's about $300 or $400. So it's not ridiculously expensive, but it's not cheap, I guess. But for what it does, it's brilliant. But there are, like a H5P, you can do that. If still images, quite easy.
And when you recorded the video you just showed with the little old lady, you did a video of her as well. Did you use the 360 camera to record that video and then just target it?
I did, and actually really good point, Michael. Actually, something to think about with that is with the 360 cameras, even if you want to do flat video, take it with your 360. when you get back to post-production, you can move the shot where you want it, you can realign it, and then, yeah. So I tend to record mostly with the 360 these days, depending on what I'm doing, yeah. Okay, so hopefully we've got an Adobe Premiere screen up there now, have we? Yes? Cool.
Yep.
And I found that Premiere offered some amazing out-of-the-box features for this. Like I said, there's a bit of a learning curve, but I'll show you a really good way to learn it quickly in a minute. And what it allowed me to do, though, which was I was amazed of all the packages, you can see that I've inserted a flat video on top of a 360 video. And there's a bit of a challenge doing that because it's not the same shape. And some of the effects when you're in Premiere, if you go into VR effects, you've got plane to sphere, and all you need to do is drop that, which I already have on there. And when I go over here, I can actually adjust how it will show. And the end result will be is that when I actually, you know, play that,
departments in Australia,
we're going to 360 view. My new computer, this is how new it is. I haven't actually set up the VR button in it. Okay, you've got to set up a VR button in it as well, but you're allowed, you can see how it makes it really quite nice. The same for text. If you want to put text in a 360 video, just do it here with Adobe. And yeah, you can actually do it. As far as to adjusting where you want your angles, your source from, works just so well. We're quite a lover of that. The last bit of software I just want to quickly show. If I share this one again. Is this bit here. Now this was tend to be more made, I guess, for more primary type school creating learning. But what really got me interested was the fact that you could actually build for the merge cube in it. So when you log in, and if you want to play with VR, it's actually not a bad place to make some stuff with. But I started trying to just play with their builder for the merge cube, and how it works is once it loads, you've got a merge cube there, then you can add what you want and then output it, and it will work straight away in the merge cube. You can upload all sorts of things, whether it be sound, images, videos, 3D models, really quite simple to do. You can have external things, like I've got a person looking at them, but quite simple to make. It also allows you, let's say you want to make it just a virtual reality. So I want to create an AR, VR co-space. I go into there. I could use my own 360 image. It'll ask me where I want to get the image from. I'll load the image and away it goes. But already it gives you a nice background there. But you can put some of their own library type components in there and away you travel. So you can make 360 interactions pretty simple with that. So very clever and very simple way to build with the merge cube. I'm playing around at the moment, uploading models, 3D models, and I've got them to work, but they haven't come through with the right colors and that, so I'm just working on that. I've got a, for our oral health students, I've got a mouth, and the idea will be that you can hold the cube round, turn it round, and you've got a mouth. You can see all the teeth and get your anatomy done by holding the cube. So that's CoSpaces EDU, a really great little little site to have a look at. It's actually reasonably priced for education. Like at the moment, I just got that myself, 75 per year, and put the merge cube ad on. But that's 5 seats, and I've given it to 5 friends. Michael's got one, and James has got one. We're all playing with it at the moment. We're more just checking what you can do with it. All right, you've got to stop sharing here and go back there. Is everyone dizzy yet? remember where I am. I'm getting dizzy with screens here. I've got just a couple more PowerPoint slides, and then I wanted to basically, if anyone wanted to chat and talk through some stuff, was where I'm at now. I just got to share this again. Captivate, I've never been a huge fan of it, but I've just started playing with it. But the 2019 release supports video and images. And it does support something I've been playing with, branching scenarios. So you add sort of quiz elements in. You can have a little video that says, you know, say conflict resolution. What would you do next? And depending on what you click, the branches. The other thing that was really interesting to me in my mobile learning interest is because it's Adobe product, you can use it to actually publish to Adobe's Phonegap. I'm not sure if people have used Phonegap. Phonegap is this wonderful little cloud-based service that Adobe has, where you can take some HTML that you've created with whatever, throw in a few icons, upload it to the cloud, and like magic, it'll spit out an iOS and an Android app for you that you can use on phones. So the iOS becomes problematic because of the Apple key, where Android, you can just run it really. But you can get the enterprise type iOS plan, say for a university, where you can distribute them in-house, which means you could make 360 type interactions fairly simply that could be done in-house at a university and given to all students. So it's quite interesting and offers some great potential as well. So I always put up towards the end, one of my last slides, this is a bit of a laugh, but it's quite funny.
Actual reality, sick.
My message there is that no matter how good AR and VR is, look first, maybe you can do it in real reality as well. But it's just a bit of a laugh. That's, I guess, as far as I'm going to present. I think we got till 2, and I wanted to leave about half an hour in case anyone had specific questions, especially now I've got Michael who can answer all the trick ones. Michael and I certainly are really willing, and I'm sure Michael will send out some details. I'll put them in the chat. If you want to chat to us, please do. My stuff tends to be up on this darrylclare.com, but I've just recently started building a site for the university, xr.cqu.org.au. And, you know, I've got to share one more thing because I wanted to show you that site briefly. So I will do that because what I've done there is actually put the tutorials I was talking about up there. So bear with me, I'll find the right button over here. I've got to remember how to type, don't mind me. And I'll stop sharing this. And I'll start sharing that. Okay, this is the xr.org.au. We're just setting it up as a place. There's a couple of reasons. Oh, I forgot to show the H5P, so I've got a couple of things to show quickly. To link videos into Moodle, this is just a WordPress site, but what it allowed me to do was actually put my interactions up here. So a lot of those interactions you can just have a look through here. Plus you can see, I didn't show a lot of these, but let's say you want to do just a walk through induction. This is more like what real estate software is for. Let's have a walk through the area. Have a look around the rooms. You go into rooms, you can actually, you know, look at different parts. So it does a lot of that stuff as well. But what I wanted to show here was in the actual guides and tutorials, a couple of things. What I did here was when I especially started to learn Adobe Premiere, I really struggled with it. So what this is is all of the tutorials that I found help me do something with Adobe Premiere, like the workflow. And they're only short videos, but they make a big difference to using the software. The one for the Insta360, if you have that camera, shows you how to do everything. I'm going to put one up for the Garmin too, but it shows you how to do some of the really great tricks to time shift, to hyperlapse, and, you know, do your Google Earth stuff with it. The other one that's maybe useful, did that pop up the app guide? Yep, cool. This is something that we're slowly putting together. It's basically apps, and I always usually when I do a presentation show people Google Cardboard Camera, easiest, simplest way to create a 360 interaction straight away. Most of these apps will either be free or they're not particularly dear. The dearest one would be Anatomy, Human Anatomy Atlas, which is $30. But they give you an idea of what you can do. AR circuits, if you're into electrical type stuff, the ability that you can do with that just to make circuits is just quite incredible. So the idea behind this was just to have an app guide. When we find a good app, we'll put it in here, and if you find a good app, tell me and I'll add it to there. And my lovely Android and Apple picture. And my very, very last thing to show you is find it. Just wanted to show you the H5P with the 360 interactions. That'd be the right login, I hope. As you know, when you've got a problem when you build your own Moodle at home just to play with. Okay. With H5P, and I believe you use that there, is that right, as such?
Yeah, that's correct, Darryl.
Okay, this is the same science interaction built in H5P. What it means is you can actually do that in your learning content management system. And it is really, really easy to actually set up. And portable, you can export it. I've actually exported this one so you could have a play over there, but your server doesn't like me and blocked it. So, but I'll get it to you one way or the other. But basically, it's as simple as you load a scene, you load the image up, but you could have multiple scenes in here. So you could actually have, like I did in that triage, and then you just have a button that says go to new scene. I've just put text buttons in here at the moment. You can edit the text that's done in there. And that's all done with H5P. When they can do video, it'll be just amazing as well. And apparently they are working on that. But I thought it was pretty cool that you could do that. And you can then package it up and export it and so on. And if you had it, you could import it into that. All right, well, I think that covers what I wanted to show, but if there's any questions now, really happy to answer any I can. Also, Michael is here. I'm really happy he's here. He can answer some as well. I hope that's been of use and interesting to show what we can do anyway. And everyone there, you'll be able to do it. Everyone I find that has a play works it really easy. It's not hard to make the 360 stuff.
Somebody asked a question in the chat about 3D models of stuff, Darryl. I suggested you might be able to find them somewhere like Turbo Squid. Have you got any other sneaky resources for 3D models?
Most of the ones I've got at the moment I've bought. Let's say I'm looking for specific 3D models. Having said that, depending minor anatomy that I'm tending to look for, if you're looking for 3D models of, say, architectural stuff, I'd try something like Thingiverse. It's more for printing, but you can find anything at Thingiverse, actually, I've discovered.
Yeah, that's for 3D printable models. And then somebody asked, this is a tricky one for you. Somebody asked about how do you get this stuff in the LMS?
Yeah.
It's been your journey these last few months, I think.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways. I think you use Blackboard there, don't you? Is that right? Blackboard?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Blackboard will host SCORM, won't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can actually put SCORM packages in. H5P is a way to do it now. You can put them in another space and iframe them into Moodle. Videos are the interesting ones, the 360 videos in Moodle at the moment. Like you can embed YouTube really easy, 360 YouTube. And if you put the right sort of tag in it, you can have it open up full screen. And if they're watching it on a mobile device, it'll automatically go into 360 glasses mode for them. We're experimenting with that at the moment, the best way to do the video. There's a couple of external options for it at the moment, and one is really good. It's actually made for advertisers, to advertise stuff. So we're negotiating to see if we can get some sort of licensing for education, because it turns them into a basically HTML5 type video. So at the moment, we tend to use the videos linked from YouTube into a special channel we've got there. I have actually worked, what also does work is we have uploaded them to the WordPress, the XR site, and loaded them as a video with an XR, with a plugin in WordPress, and then linked them straight into Moodle. That works as well. You need a fair bit of space. They're usually big videos though. I hope that answers that.
And I just wanted to also add, Darryl, Richard Brimson is working on Adobe Captivate, so you can upload the VR videos and do hotspotting, and then iframe it onto Interact 2, which is our board.
Yeah, and a couple of the packages now do the straight SCORM exports. Pano2vr doesn't do a SCORM export, but all you do is you add one file and you make it SCORM yourself. That 3D Vista outputs straight to SCORM. And I guess because it's such an expensive package, it does some wonderful things. Like it will also upload multiple res versions, and the actual wrapper it's in will detect what their bandwidth is and give them the version that's most suitable for their bandwidth. So it's quite clever too. I think as time goes on, more and more of this stuff will actually become available to create this material.
It's just Lynn here. Could I just ask, I can see a number of people have actually come into this session and they're only using their first name. In order for either myself or Rachel or Phil to follow up with people, it'd be really handy if you want direct follow-up, please just include type your name in the chat so that we know. For example, I'm not sure who Pete is. There's no surname. So please, if you want follow-up directly from us about some of this in the future, just include your name and then we can follow you up from the directory. Thank you.
Just going through chat now in case there's any questions. Michael, is anything else we've missed?
I was nabbing them as you went along. That's why
good.
You haven't got as many questions as you usually do. No,
that's good. But please, if you're interested, give it a go. Like the cameras are probably one of the more expensive bits. They're again the Insta360, and maybe I hold them up now, you'll see them better. That's the Insta360, not a big camera, and the Garmin, which is even smaller little camera, flat little thing, but beautiful camera.
So Darryl, I'm interested in the pedagogical side of what the projects you've been working on. The ambulance, the sonography project as well. What are the feedback from the students so far?
Certainly sonography, the pilot study is showing that the students all believe they could learn better from the actual virtual reality interaction, especially some of the tasks like specifically measuring They had to measure parts of the body in sonography, and they found it easier in that. With the ambulance and that, yeah, the feedback has been pretty amazing, to be honest. It's because it's just something new. We've got a lecturer who's been in Cairns who's put it in his first year's course. And our first years don't go out in an ambulance till they don't go out till second year. So it's been able to let them experience some of those things. And it's not always about the actual clinical side either. It's about, you know, you saw the lecturer in there, Paul. He does we've done 2 videos of that. One, how a good paramedic would operate in the back of an ambulance. One who's been there a long time and doesn't care about the patient operates, which a lot of them do. And it's showing them how they should interact with a patient, because we find their clinical skills are amazing sometimes, but they struggle to deal with people. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Michael, do you want to talk about some of the ones you've done with your, you've talked a bit about, I guess, the laryngoscope type thing you've done with the AR, but you've got great feedback too there.
That's it. Actually, just answered a question in the chat about this. I think a lot of people are doing more usability studies because there's so many variables. People are tending to do more studies that evaluate how students feel about the systems rather than whether they affect learning outcomes. But for paramedics, as Darryl said, we did do learning outcome testing and identified the students did benefit from it. And we're planning to do it for hard MR as well. But I think you've just got to boil down the variables, because otherwise, you know, you're presenting this very unique system that you've developed and nobody else can replicate it. So how do you boil it to something simple that you can really say this thing was the learning outcome difference? There was a question in there, Darryl, about mounts. Somebody said, what do you mount the cameras on when you're using them? You can tell Nathan Ellsworthy's story.
Yeah, I have a mount for everything here, actually. For the one where we're running with referees, we tried all different head mounts, and this is where the 17 years as a Boilermaker came in really handy. I will actually find it in a minute. It's sitting behind me. I got a welding helmet and pulled the inside out of it because I knew a welding helmet you can clamp on the head really well, and I mounted the mounts on there. I think the other thing is we all look for, you know, what we can buy. You can do so much of this stuff by sort of ad-libbing a little bit, I guess. It's such a new field. I'm going to try and hold this up. Michael knows, they all laugh at me. I'm a bit OCD with everything. So this is my current kit. You'll see I've got a GoPro or 2 in there as well, my 360 camera, but in those little things are all the different mounts. GoPro is an amazing mounting system, and the Garmin, even though it's not a GoPro type thing, it will still use all of the GoPro mounts. And my other new hobby is 3D printing, and I have found there are so many different attachments I can 3D print to get the camera where I want it. It's been lots of fun. So I use a monopod as opposed to a tripod for mounting the cameras. I did see somebody saying there that you can paint them out in Photoshop or Premiere. You can actually quite easily. And that Pano2vr has a function that you put, I want to patch this, and it opens that specific area straight out to Photoshop. You do a content-aware patch and your tripod or your monopod's gone missing. I find the monopod is just less real estate on the floor, basically, to patch out. And even if you want to leave the free little legs of the monopod in there, there's not much that it shows anyway. So you don't have to have very expensive mounts or anything. And when you do something like an ambulance, you get creative. I had suction caps that stuck on the wall with GoPro mounts. I put them on little benches that were in the actual ambulance for things like the fibs and all that. But then we have a couple of ambulances, CQ. I've actually put GoPro mounts and glued them onto the roof so we can actually put the cameras where we want them now. And that works quite well. Someone's talking about most cameras have a timer so you're not in the shot. Yep. And all of these cameras can be controlled by, I run them off my iPad, basically. So I just basically hide around a corner and turn it on with the iPad, start it, and away we go. But again, it's no big issue. You can edit whatever you want out in Adobe Premiere. take your time to learn Premiere because it is worth it. I never was a fan of it till I played with it. It did things that were just so much easier for me. Lighting. Lighting is something that I've found interesting. The Garmin is so much better in low light than some of the other cameras that I've had. Otherwise, I find that I can work mostly if it's in an ambulance. We've just turned on the internal lights. And you can see how good the quality of that was in there. And I think the daytime ones, we didn't even use the lights in the ambulance. If you're inside a building, again, most of the time with the Garmin, I can get away with just the normal lighting.
I just saw the question in there by Vicky. Now, Vicky, can you just clarify, are you the one, you're the PhD student who's currently looking at people's use of 360 immersive learning environments? I know if you are the person I'm thinking you are, who came into one of our drop-in sessions last year, definitely Michael's a good person to hook up with.
Very good. I just found my my head mount for the running, and like I said, it's the inside of a welding helmet. It could front mount a camera. We found the best spot with the Garmin was up here, and when you ran with it, it was really cool. There was very little movement. There was a bit, of course, but it wasn't going to make. We tried other cameras, and you were basically motion sick by the time you watched it. And that was, after all the tries of buying ones, that was making one. Inside of a helmet cost me, I think it was about $20 in the end.
That's awesome, Darryl. I've never seen that one before.
Yeah. I must put you in it one day and make it run around.
Make me run around? Oh, I don't know if my heart could take it. Evan's got a couple of questions for you in there.
I see that. Nursing ones, the ones that I have done at the moment, I've done the vital signs. I've done tours of all our nursing labs. And I guess we've done the Australian Resuscitation Council ones that I've got ALS, BLS scenarios. Again, they're a mix of people. There's some doctors in there, there's some nurses. I'm keen to work with our nurses more, and they're pretty keen as well. What we try to do, Michael and I too, is make people self-sufficient. So we've got one of our lab techs in our nursing who now has one of the cameras, and he started to do a lot of videos, and they're coming up really well. If you ever have a really interesting thing and you want us to have a play, let us know, just whether or not we can get funded to get to where you are. But we would try, because I like trying new things all the time, actually, and we learn from other people. So, yeah. But I think there is some really good opportunities for nursing in the skills that the nursing people do, in a way that students could look at them before and after they've been on some pracs and things like that. And Evan, you might want to have a look amongst my website there. I'm really keen one day to make some sort of clinical guide. You'll see a paramedic one there in the apps that I've done. So I'd love some feedback on that from a nursing perspective, what we'd have to do for nursing.
And you might not have seen it, Evan also had a question, and I'm interested in your answer to this, as to whether you've done anything real time. I know the Garmin can do real-time 360 video, but
I like to stream it straight out.
Yeah, I think that's what Evan's referring to.
I have done that, and I see another question from Evan, which is really interesting. Make some that focus on the patient more than the clinician. Just before I got sick, I just was about to go up to our Lady Salento Hospital here with someone I know from the Resus Council, and we were going to make it a 360 video, and we're still going to do this from a sick child's perspective, from turning up, going through everything that happens to them in the hospital. And I think the patient focus would be really interesting to show this is what happens to as a patient. But that's the beauty of this material, of using the cameras. People like yourself come up with ideas that I would never have thought of. And it's all about adapting it to what you want to use it for. And again, if you've got a tiny bit of tech knowledge, you can master a camera and the software very quickly. See, that's the one about teaching patient management, exactly. We've done a few more in paramedics like that on scenarios of patient treatment. And again, sometimes it's not the clinical's perspective, it's all about how to ask questions, how to talk to somebody. The immersiveness of putting and probably people have seen the Oculus Go, that's the Oculus Go headset. It just makes it so immersive for the student.
Yeah, this is not a question, Darryl, but just a comment with the Oculus Go when you showed me that ambulance video with the headset. I felt like I was in the ambulance and looking at the patient and watching the driver and how the patient reacts, and also the paramedics inside that ambulance, how they would communicate and react with the patient depending on the speed of that ambulance as well. So it provides that extra kind of authentic learning experience, and also provided, for me anyway, that level of empathy for the patient, which is really hard to kind of teach. Again, talking about pedagogy here, but how do we teach empathy for patients? So, you know, VR provides that little extra level there.
Yeah, it certainly does. It really is a good tool for doing that. And I think we have a lot more to explore on that. That conference we went to at the start of the year when they're talking about sound, I don't think much about sound, but again, there's a lot to be said for getting the sound exactly right in there as well. So absolutely.
Just on the Oculus, I mean, we were talking in the chat earlier about these headsets, and these, you know, Kmart $10 or Lynn found it at Myer for 20. You know, it's great, but you do need to put your phone inside it. And so when I talk to K-12 teachers, and Darryl does these workshops with me as well, I often endorse the Oculus Go, because even though it's $300 as opposed to $20, you remove all of that variability. You don't need to worry about, do they have the right version of an Android phone that runs the right app. I know they've got an iOS phone and we don't have that app for iOS. So our uni, and Darryl knows this because he helped the uni buy them, has bought like a dozen Oculus Go's for that reason. They're just, you get that consistency that you just don't get out of the BYOD headsets.
One of the things that I'm trying to convince the uni now is there's a bit of software called Showtime that you can use with the Oculuses as well, which what it'll allow you to do is I can get all 12 headsets and synchronize them and run them from an iPad. So in a class environment, you know, and to me that might be, you know, people are putting in these massive caves where you can actually stand with a whole class and do something. It's immersive, but it's not personally immersive. Where to me, I think I'd rather spend the money on maybe 20 Oculus Go's and this software that allows us to run everyone through the same experience at exactly the same time. So you can actually, you know, you can then talk over the top of the experience if you want with a mic. So it offers some incredible options. And again, these are all so new. It's more about learning what we can do with them.
This is great, by the way. This is, I've learned so much, and I think the work that you're doing is really incredible.
Oh, thank you.
What we do is we go out into like rural and remote schools and talk to them about what opportunities that they can get with at uni. And we have a dozen Oculus Go headsets, and at current I've been using kind of within and video viewing apps just to kind of wow kids and show them this technology. But is it easy to load things onto the Oculus Go? And using Showtime is going to help me so much. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's easy enough to load on. You can actually plug them in, and they should show up as a device on your computer. And then the Oculus itself will ask you to allow. You've got to go into the Oculus headset and allow. Mm-hmm. And once you've done that, you can sideload the videos in quite easy.
Yeah.
And they work quite well. I just watch them in the normal Oculus Theatre app then. And the only thing is the first time they might go up in 2D until you change the setting to 3D.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And that Showtime is a really good app to look at. I'm pretty sure it's called Showtime.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to investigate that. And if anyone in CSU is making content for VR, we'd love to have it at future moves so we can show potential students what we're making and what we can offer.
And if you want some content to play with, let me know and I can drop box you some.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a paramedics course, so when I was looking at that, like, you know, ambulance experience, I was like, this is exactly what we want to be showing students. This is like where you can end up, you know. So, yeah, I might contact you about permissions to use some of that content.
Not a problem. It's just a way to show people what we can do with it. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're talking about getting stuff on the go as well. You can sideload, but I found that Darryl's YouTube channel is also really useful. They've now got YouTube VR on the go, and so you just get it onto YouTube, and then once you've got it onto YouTube, you can load it up in YouTube VR. So, and then as I said in the chat earlier, and Darryl does this really well, one of the benefits to YouTube is that it works all the way from you holding up an iPad in front of you and rotating it all the way up to running it on a HTC Vive Pro if you want to in the browser or the YouTube app. So there's an argument, I think, even though some of us are scared of YouTube and Google, I think there's an argument that YouTube is actually one of the better ways to get that content up there.
Yeah, it is. It does it well. It really does it well.
So I'm pretty conscious with the time. I think we've got 4 minutes to go. So I'm just sounding a bit hasty here, but does anyone else have any questions?